So we're going to talk through the electric guitar parts for One Way, and this is specific to the upcoming Fulltime tour in Hong Kong. This is Fulltime 17-18. And I say that because often when we train One Way, we'll train it with 2 electric guitars, and that means that the lead work that we're about to go through will actually be divided up between those guitars differently. But since you guys are heading overseas with 1 electric and 1 acoustic, we're going to be putting all of the one-way lead work in the 1 electric guitar, if that makes sense. So, it's a little bit different than how we usually play it, but we have done it this way before, and it works out fine. So, yeah, we're just going to go through it. You're going to be mostly on octaves. And you'll feel this out in full band, but there might be a time, like maybe in the choruses, or at the end of the bridge, or the very final chorus, or something like that, when you have to switch to beefy power chords instead of just octaves. Especially in the chorus, you'll be playing kind of higher octaves. If it sounds empty, it sounds like it doesn't have enough like grit or fullness or whatever, you can switch to just the normal power chords that you already know, and I'm not going to go through. You'll know if you have to switch, and your music trainers will help you kind of figure that out too, if the full band kind of needs a little bit more body. But for now, we're going to assume that you're going to play the octaves because they're super cool, and it's easier to make the switch from the octaves to the power chords as opposed to the other way through. So the intro and the verse, you're going to be playing exactly the same thing and at exactly the same energy. Everybody else is going to come down in energy from the intro to the verse, but you're not. You're going to be playing exactly the same thing. And that is the octaves as they're tabbed out on your guitar note sheet. And you just continue that line over and over and over again. You'll do that through the intro and through verse 1. And then when you get to the chorus, you'll be playing different octaves. They're going to be, instead of, those octaves were on the A and the G strings, but you're going to be playing in the chorus, you're going to be playing octaves on the D and the B strings. So again, this is tabbed out on your guitar notes, but the octaves that you're going to start, they're going to start on 9 and 12. And because they're higher octaves, obviously you're going to put 2 frets in between your fingers instead of just 1 like you would on any other string. So. This is an important note, I think, on the original chord chart, because I had transposed it to G a long time ago. We usually do this song as a female lead. And I transposed it a while ago and corrected the chart in G, but never corrected the chart in B. In the original chart that I sent out, I think I didn't correct the final chord of the chorus. The final chord of the chorus is an A, not an E. And also, immediately after the first chorus is a turn. It's a G sharp minor, E, G sharp minor, E. You'll hear it in the recording, but that A at the end of the chorus is really important. Well, the turn is really important too, but everybody else can be playing that too. So, that's where that 11 and 14 octave. Like that. So, you know what? Rather than sing along and play it, well, I'm just going to cue up the music in just a minute and we'll go through it together. Let me demonstrate the turn figure for you, just in case you haven't heard it. It's pretty clear in the recording, but you'll start on kind of the 11th fret and you'll kind of hang out there. The final note in the turn figure, I tabbed on the 16th fret, but you can actually just do it on the 11th on the E string. And bend from there. Anyway. Like that. And in the recording, that last bend really hangs out for a while, but you're going to have to go back down to your octaves in verse 1. This is why I said normally when we have 2 electrics, we'll give the octaves to 1 electric and then that little figure to the other electric. But you'll just have to kind of think ahead and keep that kind of short. Make sure you hit it and hold it for as long as you can and still get back to the octaves in time. So. You're back in for verse 2. In verse 2, it starts out kind of as a breakdown. Pretty much everybody else is out. The drums are keeping time, but I don't think there's a lot else that's in there. It's mostly you. So if you hear everybody else drop out, still play with that same level of energy. Play just like you did in the intro in verse 1. You really never, like, until the instrumental, until that beginning of that bridge where the energy comes down a lot, you never really change energy. It's like, all the time, 100% from you throughout most of this song. I did remember one thing I probably should have said about verse 1. I'm sure you've heard it in the recording. But when you're playing through verse 1, there's kind of a lift, like a full band lift, at the end of the second line on your chart, at that E there. So it kind of sounds like this. And you are just going to strum the octave and stop strumming. So you just strum it and let it ring. So something like this. And back in, just like that. And you'll hear everybody else kind of do quarter note hits there, but you'll just strum that E and then just stop strumming, just let it ring out, and then jump back in for the B. So that's all the way through to through verse 2. Then there's a double chorus, and you're just going to play it like as before. That's one place that I said maybe you might need to switch down to kind of power chords if it doesn't seem full enough, but I think the octaves are cool, and I think it's going to fill out nicely, and I think the acoustic is going to be able to carry it nicely, and the rest of the band will be able to fill it out well enough that it shouldn't matter that you're up on the high octaves instead of down on beef. When it comes to the instrumental, again, this is a part that we would normally put in, a guitar 2 roll, but since you're the only electric, you're going to be playing this part. It starts out like this, and the key to this, it's palm muted octaves, but the key is to keep it really clean. You still want to keep that same aggression, you want to do a very percussive palm mute, because you don't, this isn't you want the song to keep a lot of energy, and you want it to be really gritty and really aggressive throughout, but you want to also keep it really clean, so. So you'll play that progression twice through just on your own, and there's pretty much nobody else except for the drum. I think the drummer's keeping time on a cymbal or something like that, or maybe the kick. He's not playing a full pattern. Someone is keeping time, and then it's just you. So you'll hear everybody else drop out. There's a couple times in the song where that happens, and it's really just you carrying it, and you're you're still playing high energy and aggressive, but everybody else drops out. So don't lose confidence. You're supposed to be in then, and just play really confidently, or else it will sound like you were playing when you weren't supposed to. But you aren't. That's where you're supposed to play. So be bold. You'll play through that progression twice, and then when you go into the bridge, once the vocals come in, the bridge happens 4 times. The first 2 times you're going to play that progression just the same as you just played it, that instrumental progression. And then the second 2 times, you're going to switch to octaves, and you're going to voice them very similar to how you voiced the chorus octaves, except that, of course, these are slightly different chords, so it's going to sound slightly different, but it's the same kind of voicing. It's up there on the D and the B strings, so... Anyway, as you just heard me, right from that bridge, you'll go into the chorus, and that final chorus has the hits. Ba-da-da, one way, ba-da-da, Jesus, na-na-na-na-na-na, bum, do, 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 one way, bum, bum, like that. So you'll hit those with the full band, da-da-da, da-da-da. There's a really cool thing that you can do. Not everybody does it, but you can do like I've never been able to do it and make it sound good. So more power to you if you can. But you can do a pick slide at the second cut. So if the song is one way, Jesus, oh. Alright, well, I screwed that up. Anyway, you get my point. You can do kind of a cool, like, pick slide, or even just kind of a slide down with your hands, just kind of creating some noise in that space. It's super cool if you can do it. I'm sometimes very awkward on the electric, so I've never been able to pull it off very well. But rehearsal is a really great time to, like, experiment with that kind of stuff and see if you can do it. Don't be afraid to throw something out there, because that's the time for doing that kind of thing. So if there's something out there, and if you just can't get it, whatever, it's fine to cut it, but give it a shot. So, cool. And let me know. Oh, you know what? I said I was going to cue up the song, but I'm realizing this video is already kind of running a little long, so I'm just going to cut it now and then record a second demonstration video.